and welcome back to the show. Again, I am here with a wonderful guest and a pleasure to have him on. His name is General Paul Vallely, and welcome, General.
Thank you, Amina.
Thank you for being here. So the General, I'll just give you a little background of who the General is. So the General, over 15 years in special operations, psychological and civil military operations. He did combat service included in Vietnam positions, U.S. infantry, company commander, intelligence officer, operations officer, military advisor, and aide-de-camp. And he did this over 15 years in special operations. Senior military analyst for Fox News from 2000 to 2007, and analyst for 14 years on television. He served in many overseas theaters in Europe, Pacific Rim countries, 2 combat tours in Vietnam, and spent in U.S. security assistance missions. So you have quite a history in service for this country, and I want to thank you for being here and being on the show. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. And we did an interview prior to this one, and I'd encourage everybody to go see it. It is regarding a lot about the Benghazi case that we have currently heard some news on a video with Alan Harrow Perot, who is a Falcon trainer from what I understand. And he released information, a whistleblower on the Benghazi story, and there's a lot of interesting information there. Now, from what I've heard, that video has been pulled down, but if you go to BitChute, I believe the video is still up there and you can look for it. It's Alan Perot, a Falcon trainer. He has his own documentary out as well on BitChute. I have seen it there myself. And from what I understand, General, you have been very involved for many years on this case, and you've recently started communicating with Alan Perot about the Benghazi situation and Team 6, SEAL 6. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct, yes. When I was with Fox News, I covered the Benghazi situation there, the 13 hours where our compound and consulate was under attack by terrorist forces there. And of course, we lost 4 great Americans that particular night. But the key is that we didn't mount a rescue operation to rescue them. That was denied and stopped by our White House, President Obama and Secretary Clinton. Because in our military, we always go after the man down or the individual down for a rescue operation. Let no man behind is our motto. And in that case there, we had senior members of our government lied to the American people, lied to the families, such as Charles Woods, who I've been working with very closely, the father of Tyrone Woods, who was killed during that 13 hours and during the Benghazi attacks.
Yeah, so Alan Perot, he was or is a Falcon trainer, and he's gone to great efforts in preserving these birds. And apparently, from what I've been learning is, you know, it's not just about drug trafficking and child trafficking and all these horrible crimes being committed, but Falcon training is a big trafficking industry as well, and quite known, especially in the Middle Eastern countries. And some of these birds sell for $1 million. So he got very involved in those communities, in the Arab communities as such. Just for anybody, a little bit of background for anybody who doesn't understand or know this about him. So he is apparently a whistleblower in a lot of this and has a lot of evidence, is what I'm understanding. Now, what I think for most people who we are dying to know, we would love to know when the evidence will be coming out. And I'm just relaying back what I hear from people, you know, and what people are demanding and asking, and rightfully so. There's a lot of patience on our part here and what's going on, but there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes And it's not that easy. I'm sure there's so many challenges around all of this. And, you know, we're dealing with evil, like in my opinion. So, you know, is there any, the evidence that he claims to have, how do you see this unfolding, and when, and can you say?
I don't think it will be unfolded. I think basically, typically, what's anything about the Clintons or Bidens is a big cover-up. And of course, Allen's focus has been on bin Laden, who he tracked throughout the Middle East, moving from Pakistan to Iran to Mashhad, a city in southeastern Iran. And so that's been Allen's focus. And of course, he thinks that bin Laden actually wasn't killed by our SEAL Team 6, but had been, there was a body double, and that bin Laden actually returned to Iran, where reports are that he died of renal failure as he had been on kidney machines for quite a while. So that's where Allen's going on it. I have no more information on that. But I would think, just like now with anything involving the Clintons, it's a big cover up, and whether our Attorney General at Department of Justice is going to pursue any further investigation or indictments, we don't know at this time, but we have been assured in some way that indictments will come after the election. But it all ties back again to the Clintons, Benghazi, bin Laden, and whether he actually was killed that night. Was he buried at sea? So those are questions that I can't answer. They're just out there.
Right. And they're very important questions. So you think the indictments will occur after the election? How soon after the election can you?
Well, they may not. I mean, Attorney General Barr, and he's the one in charge, and he's got, he can indict 28 people tomorrow if he wanted to. There's enough information there, from the Russian hoax to the hoax that occurred, regarding other countries over there, and you've probably read about it. But the extent of illegal activities, let me say, just like what's going on with President Biden right now and his son Hunter Biden, that those things are there. Now, whether the Attorney General will have equal justice for the likes of Secretary Clinton, it all goes back to the Obama White House, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They're there now. It's up to him, and whether President Trump, with the Attorney General, want to pursue indictments of these people for treason, sedition, trying to remove an acting president, which they've done through the Russian hoax. So there's a lot going on in America. There's a lot is positioned there at the FBI and at the Department of Justice. So we'll have to wait and see.
We are waiting. We are waiting. It is a lot going on, and it is such unprecedented times going on for everybody on the planet, and probably for the first time ever for every human being to experience this at the same time, which is extraordinary. So,
well, and then you have the threat from the Chinese Communist Party, and of course they're a threat to Canada. I've been reading all the reports of what's happening in Vancouver, British Columbia,
mm-hmm.
with these very well-positioned and very well-organized gangs that come out of Shanghai that have come in and are actually operating in Vancouver now. Sex trafficking, drugs, money laundering, and they can do that when they come in with a lot of cash. And I understand they bought up a lot of property in Canada, agricultural property.
Yes.
And also have bought some of the companies and natural resources that have gone bankrupt. So a lot of people in the United States don't realize all the activities of what's going on with China and Canada right now. And it's very serious, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question, was Canada's involvement and how much you know of Canada being involved. But as far as the Chinese here, they're very prevalent here. And most Canadians, just in our local conversations in our communities, we know this. We talk about this. This is known. You know, like you say, the agricultural land, I mean, just outside of, I live in an area, which is the capital, Ottawa, in Canada, and just outside around in some of these suburb areas, there's so much agricultural land out there, and it's owned by Chinese, and we're well aware of that. So it makes you wonder, right? I mean, it's concerning because we're Canadians. You know, why isn't this land our land? And what involvement do they have so much? So why the need to be here so much? There was a lot of things. I mean, Canadians, and you know, we're very much in a position of not truly understanding what is going on. I see other countries and other people in other parts of the world that seem to be a little bit more aware and awake to the realities of this planet. And honestly, I can say that I think in Canada, we need to learn a little bit more and look a little bit deeper. There is such a thing called the deep state. You know, there are these things that are going on, and Canadians need to learn and educate. And I think that's the only way to help us rise up to what we're facing, especially here in our country. But, and so for Benghazi, what do you know how much Canada was involved with this? In what ways? Because it's not just the United States involved. Is that correct?
Well, there's a number of countries besides Libya. You've got the arms deal with the arms leaving Benghazi and Libya going up to Turkey, into Syria, into the hands of ISIS forces. So there's a lot of interplay, a lot of inner workings regarding Benghazi. I have no knowledge of Canadian involvement at all. But again, if we go back to all of this, which basically you look at the vulnerability of our country, if Biden would get elected with his communist Chinese ties, that they feel that right now that he can be targeted and basically used as a pawn of the Chinese Communist Party if he's elected. So that's one theory out there. But we have to really be aware. If it wasn't for President Trump, we would not know the extent of what has happened in the last 2 decades in China with their expansionist opportunities in economics, finance, drugs, for example. They do manufacture a lot of drugs for the health industry over there. In the natural resources, the Silk Belt Road going from China, all extending all the way up to the Middle East, the purchasing of natural resources in Africa. So the Chinese have been very, very busy. They also have the sister cities where they infiltrate into the cities in America, and they've done the same thing in Canada. And with that, we have $6 billion we found out last week in a report of monies from our universities and ties to China. And the Chinese actually putting money into some of our universities and putting people in there, even they're associated with the faculties. So the Chinese are very smart. They've infiltrated America and other countries as well. In Canada, we know for sure. And right now, measures have to be taken to restrict any Chinese, because it's the Chinese Communist Party that's formulating all of these policies and all of these directives that go out throughout the world, wherever the Chinese are located. So it's a very serious problem. So Canada has to be aware, but I'm not sure you have the leadership up there to counter anything that the Chinese are doing.
I agree with you there. I'm not sure we have the leadership either. And it's just not looking good each day as we go along here. You know, our government was shut down for so long, and you know, Trudeau was under the fire with the WE scandal, and since, you know, we're just waiting to see how he's trying to weasel his way out of it. And unfortunately, you know, they're taking upon so many different tactics and changes in our government right now that we're just sitting back and Canadians are watching, and I don't think they fully understand what is going on.
How about your provincial leaders up there? How about your province leaders? Are they active? Are they on top of it?
There's some that are, and there's some that are not, but I think behind the scenes, they're working on some things from what I hear. I know there's a gentleman, Harris, he's in Kingston. He's been speaking out quite loudly against the COVID-19 and just our rights, our human rights, and how they're infringing upon them with some of the bylaws and rules that they're putting upon us. And I'm not trying to go against COVID in any way. I'm just trying to explain, that there are politicians that are looking for the best interest of Canadians, and what, it's shutting down our country, locking down cities and shutting down our small business. It's devastating what's going on here.
Yeah, particularly in Europe right now, the lockdowns in Europe are causing a tremendous amount of damage to the people over there, to the businesses and so on. Europe is in really bad shape.
Yes.
We seem to be on top of it here in America. Now we've got vaccines coming out. And what the critical thing is you have to look at, they always publicize the number of cases positive. But what you really have to look at, how many were hospitalized, then how many recovered. And it's down now to 1%. Really, when you look at a casualty rate, it's very, very low compared to the testing that's going on now, which is monumental, bringing to light more cases, even in my family. But you have to also consider the number of hospitalizations, then how many recover. Those are the important figures. But they splash on the news all the time, the total amount of cases that have been
yeah, absolutely. It's
made apparent in the media.
And it's obvious to me, but apparently it's not obvious to everybody. They seem to buy into the narrative of from MSM, from mainstream media, and it's incredible how much people are following that narrative and not really looking at the facts, like you just mentioned, which are the true facts. And the scientists or the doctors, the medical world, there are people speaking out. So it's incredible to watch this movement of people following the wrong narrative behind this and not getting the proper information, because you're right, the actual deaths from it are quite low. So, and that's important. That's very important to understand that.
You got to keep the economies open. People have to go to work. Restaurants have to be open. At the same time, you can social distance. You can wear your mask when necessary. You can do all of those things. And if there's a hot spot, you certainly have the medical capability to handle those hot spots with hospitalization and with the drugs that are available now. So this is all doable. We're going to get over it, but we have to have positive leadership. If we have a President Biden, he'll lock down the whole country again, and that will continue to deteriorate our economy to the extent that it'll be very difficult to recover.
I agree. And, I've heard this before, that he's running for presidency to gain immunity from prosecution because of, and I mean, I can see that, what can you say to that?
Well, nobody's above the law in the United States. Nobody, even the president's not above
anywhere, correct.
Anywhere. It's just a matter of how strong your Department of Justice, your justice system is working. And we, in our case here in the United States, I'm not sure anymore because of the lack of indictments that have failed to come out on certain people that have conducted treason and sedition against the President of the United States and our government.
Yeah, what interesting times that is. And justice will prevail. It really has to. Norman Traversy and I, it's a following, if anyone's been following, Norman's been privately prosecuting Justin Trudeau, and we've now, we talk about justice for Canada, justice for all. And it really is about justice for all in this, right now, in the times that we're all in around the world. So we are all equal. And that's important to know. And I've been also talking with a gentleman, Christopher James, about common law and natural law, which is really important to educate ourselves on who we are born under God's law, who we are, truly are, and, and rise up to this. It's a personal responsibility, in my opinion. So.
Well, that's the other thing. We've gotten so far away from religion and, all of these anti-religious groups that have attacked the churches, not only in Europe, but in Canada, the United States. And so when you don't have a virtue of honesty and truth and integrity, then you're going to fail in a country. And I think in many ways, we found that our educational institutions have influenced our young students so much that they even think socialism and communism is all right. So we got that dilemma going on in the United States as well. I'm not sure what it's like in Canada now, but this movement to socialism has never worked and never will work.
I agree. And it is here. It's very prevalent here in Canada. And our education is such an important part of our communities to protect, and who brings the education to us. And it's a control otherwise. So I agree. And I think fascism, communism, whatever, all the Marxism, I think there are signs of all of that here, and some may disagree, but, I think the youth, if you're listening, the millennials especially, just go back and go into your history a little bit and learn, or ask even your elders, your grandparents, talk.
Well, they don't learn history, that's the problem. Even in the United States, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but we want to cast aside our history. We want to cast aside the Constitution, what's made this country great. And that's been happening throughout our colleges and high schools, even down to grade school. And that's where people have to stand up and say, hey, listen, our students are going to study history. We're going to understand freedom. We're going to understand, for example, the Constitution in the United States and what it means. But when you go through a system like we have now with 9 out of 10 of our professors in these colleges are all liberal and left-leaning. And so that's how they influence the students. And they become very naive to the world because of the lack of study of history.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope and pray to see that change. Really do. Really, really do. I worked in schools for 14 years.
Got to work on it.
Yeah, and working in the school system for as many years as I have now, from kindergarten to grade 12, actually, I've seen a lot of things, and I've seen the changes, and it's the minds of men, the young minds of men, and how easily they can absorb the wrong information. So they have
easily manipulated, very easily manipulated.
Very, very, very concerning. Absolutely. So let's say, okay. And so your involvement with let's go back to Benghazi. It is a very, very important subject, in my opinion. And I really think it's key to it all. So it's something you've been working on for years. Right. And you have been working closely with who in particular, and what has been your involvement? Exactly.
Well, I was involved right from the beginning when the hearing started on Benghazi. We formed the Citizens Commission on Benghazi, Admiral Lyons and General McInerney, Roger Aronoff, and myself. And we did a lot of the investigations that we provided the congressional committee that was doing the hearings and the investigation into Benghazi, why it happened, why there was no rescue operation, and so on. And so I've been involved from the beginning. I also worked again with, by request, Charles Woods, the father of Tyrone Woods. He and I worked very closely on this thing. But we want to see justice for the families.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've had, again, senior members of our government at the time lying to the American people, saying that a rescue operation couldn't have been launched because there was not sufficient intelligence or sufficient forces in the Mediterranean, which was an absolute lie. So our investigations have proved, yes, we had ships at sea, we had Marines, we had aircraft, we had special operation forces, we had drones. In other words, we had a full capability that could have been there out of that 13 hours in the second hour to launch a rescue operation, or to at least ward off the terrorists who had surrounded the compounds there. Using armed drones, for example, could have been on site overhead in that second hour. And we knew we had our aircraft in Italy and Spain actually were what we call spinning up, which means the blades you start the aircraft and you're spinning up, and then you're ready to load whatever forces you're going to take into launch that rescue operation. But that's a tragedy in our history there, that we had senior people that put down from the White House, Obama to Clinton, not to launch a rescue operation. So that's where we're at. And whether it's going to, people are going to pay the penalty for that, we don't know. Again, it goes back to our Attorney General and Department of Justice. They just may keep it under the carpet. They may do nothing. So we'll have to
How
see.
sad, and how sad for the families. How tragic,
very.
honestly, really tragic. And when you say like General Flynn, now you know him personally, I would
Yes,
imagine. Yes,
I do.
And what a
Another tragedy. Yeah,
another tragedy. Yes.
And what he's suffered over 4 years now, and the fact that it's still hanging there with a left-leaning judge, Sullivan. So hopefully right after the election, that will be solved as well. General Flynn hopefully will be totally separated from the FBI that basically entrapped him, as far as we know. But he has a very good lawyer, Sidney Powell, and I think that'll all be corrected right after the election. But it's cost the Flynn family a lot of money, and you know, he's a great general, great American, and he knows a lot about what happened in the Obama administration. That's one of the reasons that the left wing is trying to silence him, because of what he knew what was going on, and he knew what was going on in Benghazi and in Afghanistan, and in Iraq and other places around the world, and he knew exactly the directions that were coming out of the White House that he didn't agree with, by the way.
Well, I pray for his, you know, his family and him, that he is shown in the light, and the light is on him through this, and the truth will come out, and he will be protected. So
truth will prevail. Truth will prevail here shortly.
Yeah, exactly. And you're saying, I heard you say shortly after the election. Well, that's reassuring.
Sometime after the election, yeah. I mean, the president's juggling a lot of balls, for sure, but Flynn's right up there at the top level of an issue that's got to be resolved. Right.
Well, it's positive, and I like to hear positivity. So that's fantastic. And General Flynn, I mean, what an honor to know, I mean, yourself, and for you to be in serving serving all of us. So thank you again for that. And President Trump, he gets a lot of flack here in Canada. The mass media has destroyed him on every level. And it's appalling, and it's disgusting, even whether you're a Trump supporter or not, just to watch our media in their mannerism, in their behavior. It's disgusting is the word, honestly. I can't even watch the news.
But keep in mind, millions and millions are supporting President Trump.
Correct.
We always talk about those that are not. But he has millions, maybe up to 100 million now that are supporting him in America.
Correct. I agree. And it's extraordinary, and they don't show it.
Yeah, you're not seeing it in California or New York or Chicago, but you certainly see it through the outlying areas throughout the country. And I think he's going to win. I think it's going to be bigger than a lot of people think, as far as the separation of the votes, and what we have is our electoral college, which really ends up electing our president. So I think he's going to do well. Biden is not capable of being president. I don't think he has his mental capacity, or well, it's something, like you said, something's not there. Something's missing in Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And of course, Kamala Harris is the most left-leaning senator we have, and my goodness, we don't want her even around the White House, with the chance that something would happen to Joe Biden and she would become president. That would be horrible. And then she'd bring in Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. I mean, that would really create civil strife in America for another civil war for sure.
Would it ever? A civil war? Imagine that, because I think that we could take this to the next topic, the Space Force. Like, is there a civil war? Is there ever going to be another conventional war? I mean, we don't see that today, and there is war going on right now.
Well, yeah, you can look at what's going on with the cartels in Mexico, what they're doing. That's a drug war, as they call it. Opium and money laundering, sex trafficking. you have civil strife going on, insurrectionists throughout the country, just like we've seen in Philadelphia the last few days. But on Tuesday, no matter who's elected, there's going to be civil strife in America. But we've got to be prepared for that. Our armed forces are prepared, our National Guard, our reserves. We've got to reinforce the police. The police can't handle the multitude of burnings and attacks on businesses in America, as we've seen in Philadelphia. We just don't have enough police to handle all those areas. That's why we've got to bring in U.S. Army Reserves, for example.
Well,
so it's going to be an interesting week. So stand by.
Thank you for mentioning that. I think it's really important. It is going to be more than interesting, and we do need to prepare. I don't think people even begin to realize, some people, what this means. But yeah, we do need to prepare. And prepare, I like to say, prepare mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like inside yourself, like going within yourself. It's very, very powerful place to be. So
every family has to be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
In all seriousness, absolutely. So I would like to ask you about Q and the Q movement. And that's quite a movement. I actually learned and heard about Q the very, very first day it started, October 17th, and followed it. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about Q and what they're planning and what they're doing in the coming months.
Well, I have no idea. I'm not part of Q. That must exist out there with certain intel people, certain investigative individuals that provide these Q reports from time to time. They haven't been that active, I've seen, in the last month or so. So I'm not sure where they're at, but I'm not a part of that. I just sort of understand it's a phenomenon that's going on.
Okay.
And I don't know anybody that's in Q. I get the reports just like everybody else does. So.
Okay. So, but they are like an intel or special agents that are advising.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, an intel organization is gathering intelligence and information and then putting it out in reports.
And advising Trump, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say advising him. He knows about it. He may look at him like I do, but that would be about it. He's got his own intel sources in our military to use.
Okay. But would you say the CIA is compromised and he has to have his own for that reason?
Well, we know it's been politicized at the top of the CIA with John Brennan and even this Gina Haspel now. And like I've told a lot of people, I would close down the FBI and CIA on Friday, open up the doors Monday with a new structure, new organization, and new guidance. Because certainly they've politicized the higher levels of the FBI and CIA, no doubt about that. But the field offices of the FBI now that we have throughout the country are very effective. They do their job. It's just been the higher levels of political appointees and senior level executives that have decided to play partisan politics, which they should not do. They're there to serve the president and the executive branch, no matter whether he's a Democrat or a Republican.
Right.
But this all emanated basically at the end of the Clintons, going into the Obamas, where they did politicize a lot of these organizations. Now we have to crawl our way back out and change that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that means removing those people that have used partisan politics to their advantage in these senior levels of the FBI and CIA, for example.
Okay. What about Hillary Clinton? What do you see and where do you see her? What she's doing?
I don't see her at all.
No. Do you know why?
Every time she pops her head out, she gets blasted. Well, they keep trying to resurrect her. They said if Biden is not capable in the last weeks here of getting the presidency, that they'll move Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party will.
Yeah.
So they always try to keep propping her up and putting her back in, but she should be in jail for all that she's committed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Yes, absolutely. Biggest threats, China and socialism. We talked a little bit about that, but these are things I think Canadians have to really take a good hard look at what's in front of them. These are the biggest threats that we are facing right now is China.
And the question is, in your government, who's looking at that? Who's investigating that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the RCMP? Is it your military? And that's
Well,
the
the
question.
RCMP should be investigating. That should be.
Sure, they should. Absolutely.
And we should be holding them up to doing their job. You know, we pay them, right? So.
Well, they have the names of the Chinese who are conducting the Big Street Boys or whatever they're called over there. There's a name for the gang out of Shanghai in Vancouver that I've read about, who are doing the money laundering, buying up properties all over the place. So where's the RCMP on that? Do they have anybody? Are they tracking that? These are the questions the Canadian people have to ask the RCMP. Exactly. What are you doing to protect us from this infiltration from the Chinese Communist Party?
Okay, well, maybe that's something Norman and I can work on.
Sure, there you go. There's another one for you.
Yeah, exactly. Put us to work, General.
Yeah, you have to hold these people responsible, Amina. You have to hold them responsible.
I agree. And, you know, I started a petition holding the RCMP responsible for the SNC-Lavalin scandals and the WE scandals, but there's another one right there. And I think what you just said is very, very important. So, and I'm learning to do this perhaps even through the common law and using more of my power, let's say, to do so. So, yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to say or add to this interview or to tell the people out there?
Well, I would say have confidence. Make sure you're involved at the local level, at the province level, just like in our states and our counties. Be involved in the school system. Support your military, support your police who need to be supporting the people. And, you know, have a vision of where your economy, where it wants to be in the next 5 years, and make sure that you don't overtax the people. Make sure you do provide them the necessary health care, that the government, in fact, is taking care of the people, and the people have the confidence in the government. And that takes consistency. It takes good leadership. Really look at who you're electing to government, who you're putting in government, wherever it may be. That's very important. And we've been very negligent in America of putting people in government, especially these Democratic governors and mayors in these cities that let these Antifa and Black Lives Matter go in and destroy a whole section of small businesses as well as large businesses. So that's a responsibility of the people, and you got to hold the leaders responsible as well all the time. And if they can't do their job, they need to step down. You need to get rid of them.
Yeah,
and we're not doing that good a job in America getting rid of these mayors. And I would arrest some of them for actually negligence when they don't protect their people and don't protect the businesses in the community.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really, really important, and we have that ability to do that. So we should exercise what we can do instead of sitting back saying, a lot of people say, you know, what can I do? Well, you can do things. So I agree.
You can do things.
And I encourage everybody to do that as well. So, yeah. And now, do you get to talk to Trump at all?
No, I'm in Montana. He's in Washington. His son will be out here this week, though. So maybe
get to meet him or talk to him?
Well, I may. Depends whether I go or not. I'm not. I just had knee surgery, so I don't do well in a big crowd, so I probably won't be there. But I'll be there in spirit.
Well, that's fantastic, and I hope your knee recovers well, and I'm sure it will. I think this is a great place to end it right here, General. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate your time and all that you do for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Amina, and we'll look forward to another show sometime.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.